explore it, and every time I teach it, I get interactions from the group, and it really helps build on what I know, but also what you know and what you've used in the past. We know that love is the foundation of all our relationships. And miscommunication of love can add to a lot of confrontation between us and our children, us and our other loved ones. Potentially a lot of harm, and I've got to read some little examples. So you being able to speak your child's love language or your spouse's love language or a roommate's love language, your boss's love language, it's not all about, love is about a relationship and it's about a choice. So if you choose, when I say your boss, everybody says, I love my boss. Well, if you speak their love language, you're going to and don't, rub them the wrong way. It can be a real win-win. So I think the love languages goes to everyone that you meet in your life. And only children who feel truly loved are actually able to do their best. Children who have a secure, loving person in their life are able to learn best and are able to achieve the best. And our children have we have an emotional love tank, as our kids have an emotional love tank. And it can be filled in a lot of different ways, but learning their love language can really help show that love tank. And one of the key ways that we can do that, and we talked about that with Love and Logic, is loving our children unconditionally. That means when they're bad, when they've done something to upset us, we still love them. We still tell them, I love you, I don't really like what you're up to, but I really love you. If you only say I love you when your children are behaving and doing their best, they get a little bit of a mixed message from you. And they just feel sometimes that they can't do enough to win your love because you only notice when they're really, really good. But they need to know that you love them, and you're going to love them regardless of how they act. Doesn't mean you're not going to have consequences, doesn't mean you're not going to do a lot of different things, but that you love them and you appreciate who they are. And I'm going to read just a few things out of here because they say it better than I can memorize. With our children, you have to remind yourself that they are children. They're going to act like kids. And most childish behavior is unpleasant. Wouldn't we agree? And if I do my part as a parent to love them, despite their childish behavior, they will mature and eventually give up their childish ways. They're going to. If I love them only when they please me, conditional love, and I express my love to them at those times, they're not going to feel genuinely loved. This will damage their self-esteem, make them feel insecure, and actually prevent them from moving into better self-control and more mature behavior. Therefore, their development and behavior is as much as our responsibility as parents as it is theirs. It's what we're teaching them. If I love them only when they meet my requirements or expectations, they will feel incomplete and believe it is pointless to do their best, since their best is never good enough. So sometimes they're acting childish and they think they're doing their best, and we're still all over them. We need to love them even when they're trying real hard, messing up. If they don't feel love, they will always be plagued with insecurity, anxiety, low self-esteem, and anger. To guard against this, we often need to remind ourselves it's our responsibility as parents for their total growth. So that's one of the key things as we talk about what the love languages are. Remember, they just need to feel loved all of the time. That gives them a secure environment to grow in. So our first love language, and I'm a visual person, so is physical touch. Hugs, kisses, wrestling, whatever the kids, if your child is physical touch, they're always touching you. If you have a child who likes to sit on your lap, likes to sit right next to you, always have your hand on your arm, that's generally a child whose love language is physical touch. And it's really, as parents, if your child is physical touch, that's a really easy thing for us to do. My 17-year-old football player is physical touch. He doesn't hug me, but every time he walks by me, I high-five him or he puts his hand out. And he's always, since he's been little, he was physical touch, but now as he's a teenager, he will hug me on occasion if nobody's looking. But just to give me a high-five or whatever when he walks by, that speaks to him, and I notice that. So I make sure I'm available for that when he's in the room. But a pat on the back, if your child is physical touch, if he's having breakfast and you're just rubbing his back, you're going to speak volumes to him, and you may notice that breakfast is going to go smoother. And if your child is physical touch, he doesn't want all the other things. He just wants a pat on the back. He wants you to tickle him. In Mark 10:13, it says, Hebrews brought their children to Jesus to have them touch them. Jesus took the children in his arms and put his hands on them and blessed them. So I think physical touch, and I think sometimes it gets waylaid into physical touch. It's all about relationships and adults and all that, but physical touch with kids is really important. And I think we have to remember that we tend to have more physical affection with our daughters than our sons. A lot of times we think if we hug and kiss and, really cuddle our boys, we're going to make them, sissy-ish or all, they're not going to be as macho. So remember that if your boys is physical touch, you need to make sure that you do that and not hug and kiss your girls and come on, big hearty slap on the back, but just give them a real good hug too. And a hug as they go off into the day is a difference between emotional security and insecurity all day. So even if they're being bad, your physical touch kid is being bad in the morning, give them a great big hug. I love you. I love you. Even though it took us a half an hour to get your shoes on and you've been screaming about your hair and whatever else, but just give them that great big hug when they leave. And I think physical touch for any of our kids, a great big hug in the morning sends them off to a day that can be really scary. We hear all about the bullying and all about all the things that go on. Make sure they know that you're in their court all day long and they don't go out. I try not to ever have any bad words to my kids as they go out the doors. Regardless how frustrated as I am, the last thing they hear is not, hurry up, get out of here. It's, I love you, let's go, I love you, But keeping that going. The second one is words of affirmation. And that's speaking into our kids. Communicating words of love is very powerful. It works with praise and endurance, and it gives an I care about you. I think if your words of affirmation, if that's your love language, and somebody speaks into your, somebody tells you, you did a really great job, or I really like your sensitivity. I thank you for noticing that I'm hurting. If that's your love language, it just fills you up. You need that. Some people don't need words, but some of our kids do need words. They need us to tell them, to nurture their inner self-worth and their security. And you will notice that if your kids are words, that they're just going to glow when you talk to them. And it's kind of, if that's what they need from you, you can hug them all you want, and they'll be okay with that, but you speak into them something positive, and you'll see them glow. You'll see them, and you want it to be a words of affirmation. You want it to praise them, but you want it to be sincere, and not always a compliment, but thanking them for, and if that makes sense, that it's not always a compliment. I'm going to close this. This distracts me. You want to talk about who they are and their characteristics and their positives. I'm going to read you a story real quick that I think helps us to tells us what. All right, this is how important words are to us and to our children. A few years ago, a Reader's Digest printed the story of a remarkable junior high math teacher. On a Friday afternoon, she asked her students to list the names of the other students in the class, leaving a space between them. Then she told them to think about the nicest thing they could say about each one of their classmates and write it down. And at the end of the period, she collected those sheets, and over the weekend, she wrote the names of each student on a separate sheet of paper and listed what everyone had said about that child. On Monday, she gave it to the students. As they began reading, they started whispering to each other, I never knew that meant anything to anyone, or I didn't know others liked me so much. The papers were never discussed in class, but the teacher knew the exercise was a success. because it gave her students a positive feeling about themselves. Several years later, one of those students was killed in Vietnam. After his body was returned to Minnesota, most of his classmates, along with his math teacher, attended the funeral. At the luncheon after the service, the father of the young man said to the teacher, "I want to show you something," and he took a wallet out of his pocket. He said, "They found this on Mark when he was killed. We thought you might recognize it." Gives me the chills. Opening the billfold, he removed 2 worn sheets of notebook paper, which had been tape-folded and refolded many times. It was a list of the good things Mark's classmates had written about him. "Thank you so much for doing this," Mark's mother said to the teacher. "As you can see, our son treasured it." One by one, Mark's classmates began to reveal that each of them still had the sheet, and they had read it often. Some carried it in their billfold. One even put it in his wedding album. One man said, "I think we all saved our list." I think, words are more than just, I think if somebody's written you a note, do you have notes at home that you save? Somebody wrote you a note, said you were special, or sometimes there's somebody in your life, and when you see them, you remember the time they said something to you that just touched your heart. So I think if we can remember that with our children and catch them doing something good and commend them on it when they're doing that. And I think we talk about that a little bit with Love and Logic Parenting. Just kind of be on the lookout. Make a conscious effort. Okay, what did he do yesterday? Okay, maybe he'll do that again today. Let's see, and let's go from there. And we don't want to do, "I love you, will you do this for me?" Or, "I love you, but I want you to do such and such and such." So those will cancel it out. We want to make sure that it's still, "I love you," and it's all that. It's not, "I love you, will you please go get this for me," or "will you please clean your room?" It's just, "I love you." So that words of affirmation. Words of affirmation aren't always easy. We're busy, but even think about the people in your life who do really well when you compliment them. The third one's quality time. And that means your child wants your undivided, very focused attention. And it's attention. It's not, "Come sit with me and we'll both watch TV." They want your attention. "Come sit with me and I'll read you a story," if your child likes quality time, is a good one. But it's your presence to that child that speaks to them that you're important and I like to be with you. So making time, and if you have more than one child, it's not easy. I know that.
Yeah, I was just about to say. They all get jealous.
They do, and so it's making time. It's picking a time for each one. Quality time might not be.
Everybody out the bed. Everybody be fighting over, "I want to wake my mama." Everybody got go.
And that's hard. And that's hard because each one of them wants your time. But figuring out which one, if all of their love language is time, one might be touch and one might be word, and you may be able to fill those little buckets along the way. But quality time, if you're a child that likes quality time, you really feel loved if your parent will spend that one-on-one time with you. And it doesn't require that you go anywhere special. It just means that you spend that time. And I know some people who have a child with quality time, when you first get home from work and you're all crazy and you need to get dinner, if you will take 5 minutes right then and there before you move on, sit down, look them in the eye, talk about the day, draw one picture, whatever it is, you will notice that you'll be able to make dinner with no problems because you filled that love tank. They missed you. They want to know that they're special. They want to know they're important. It doesn't take, as opposed to fighting them off for the next hour as you're trying to make dinner, take that time right then. And if your child is quality time, ask them about what are they feeling, what are they thinking, just something. Make positive eye contact with your child. Your child, if you're someone who doesn't make eye contact, or if you're kind of still home, get away, busy, that eye contact with your child is really important. And eye contact with adults, you feel more comfortable when somebody looks you in the eye when you're talking to them. With your children, it conveys the same kind of quality love if you look them in the eye. And try not to act rushed. Okay, I'll give you 5 minutes. What do you like? Do you like it now? Okay, now we're done. Okay, now we can go. We get so busy, but we forget that our little people have all the love that they need. And so if we can do that in an unrushed manner, you can look at your watch. You can sit down with them, and it can be 5 minutes. You haven't told them it's 5 minutes, and then you say, "I'm going to bless you with dinner," and so off we go. So we have to make a plan. You know, if you want, you have to make a plan with your kids, and you have to think about it ahead of time. So, you know, when a little bit later, we're going to give you the question that you have the questionnaire, but we'll look through it, and it'll give you some ideas of questions that you can ask. And when you think about what your child's quality time, what your child love language is. And the next one is gifts. A true gift is not a payment of service rendered. Rather, it's an expression of love for an individual that is freely given by the donor. So a gift for a clean room is not a no payment gift. And gifts don't have to cost you anything. A gift can be a pretty flower. It can be a cool rock. It can be, you know, a paper airplane, you know, depending on your child. But if their love language is gifts, they're going to want to give you gifts. So when they give you something, you have to make sure, even if it's something that to you might look like garbage, you know, and it just may be, you have to make sure that you thank them for it, you appreciate it, and you put it somewhere where they can see that you're treasuring something they gave to you. And if your child's love language is gifts, and you give them something, it could be a rock. I found this shell. I saw this neat colored piece of paper today. They will put that someplace very special. And if anything happens to it, they're going to be very upset. And that's how you know your child's love language is gifts. They treasure what you give them. Some children will, you know, dump things off where they don't really care, and you think, I just gave you that, and I can't believe you just dumped it. It was a brand new whatever. Their emotional tank is empty, and that's not their love language. And so you're not going to, you know, some parents, you know, that you hear all about parents, you know, they work all day and they come home and they're busy and they bring home treats and snacks and toys and all this stuff, and my child just doesn't appreciate anything I do for them. I'm always bringing stuff home and they just don't appreciate it. Their emotional tank is empty, and you're not speaking their love language. So it's, you know, I think it's easier sometimes to throw gifts at things. I'll just grab this toy, it's plastic, whatever, while I'm there, and when I get home. So we have to think about what is their love language, and what speaks to them. And then acts of service. And this, I think, sometimes when I think about this, it's a little hard to tell if your kids are acts of service, if that's their love language, or because most of our kids don't really want to do too much for us. But, you know, when they're littler, when you think about when our kids were littler, as they grow, they you know, go through their teenager stage. But if you have a child that wants to help you cook, wants to help you do the dishes, wants to help you with whatever you're doing, and you don't let them because they're busy, or you don't teach them, they want to be able to make something for you. Make your tea, bring you a soda, get the ice out of the ice machine. And if you don't let them, you crush that love language is them if they want to serve you. But if their love language is acts of service, it's doing something for them. Doesn't mean doing everything for them. But, hey, let me carry your backpack today. You know, easy things. You know, not like I'm going to clean your room, or, you know, you may want to, but, you know, easy things that you can do a service to them. Try to think of some of the other examples, but doing something for them that shows that you care about them and you're willing to do something for them. And we don't use acts of service to manipulate our children. I'll do this for you if you do this for me. You know, I'll you know, wash your clothes if you clean the garage. You know, that's not the same thing. It's acts of service are, and it's not doing for your child what they can't do for themselves, because that's what we're already doing. We're cooking them dinner, we're driving them places, because that's something they can't do for themselves. But if we're going to be an act of service, it's doing something for them that they can do for themselves. You know, I'll run your bath water tonight. You know, or I'll get you know, something out, or do something like that. But also, if your child wants to speak that language, you want to make sure that you teach them to do things. Teach them to cook. Teach them to do their own laundry. Teach them to do your laundry. Down the road, they'll want to show you, you're having a really great day, Mom, I'll do that for you. I don't have any kids that are acts of service. Not a one. Well, you know, I think we're all a little bit of all of them. And as you go through when we go through the test in just a minute, but I think you'll find one prominent, but when they're littler, they say under 2, they don't really have a love language. They're kind of they have too many needs to be met when they're real little. But as they get older, you'll be able to see them define them more. And I think that as they get into junior high and high school, you'll notice that those will be more visible. Okay, so those are the basics of that, of the love languages. And I want you on your second page, there is a questionnaire. And I think as you go through this, do this for you. Do this for you because it's really going to help. And what you do is you're given 2 options. And you just go, don't overthink this. Go through it quickly. And whatever one comes to you first, number 1, I like to receive a notes of affirmation. I like to be hugged. A or E, go. I like to spend one-on-one time with a person who is special to me. I feel loved when someone gives practical help to me. Oh, do you have, I didn't bring any. Do you also?
So it'll be one or the other?
One or the other. I'm sorry. I thought I thought about that and then didn't. And as you do this, think about, your kids. Like number 6, I like to go places with friends and loved ones.
And this is for us.
This is for you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is you. It's easier to figure out your love language because your love language may be words of affirmation, but your kids may not. So you may be speaking great words to them and they're not appreciating it. You have to pick one or the other. You will see when you get down to the bottom, and just kind of, a lot of them you would say, oh, either of those is fine. But what would really speak to you, you kind of have to make a few of them. A lot of them, some of them are going to be similar, and then some of them are going to be. See me having questions? Well, we'll answer those after. Everybody got a pen? There is the access service. Well, maybe when you get there, we'll just fast forward it. You can't like both. You have to pick one or the other.
So people.
Well, while they're taking the quiz, I will just be standing here.
Yes. Do your love language quiz at this time.
Do your love language quiz at this time. All right, then add them up. Add up your A's, B's, C's, and D's. It's 2 pages. Yep, and then just add your A's.
Oh, Long days.
I know.
Long days. So let's talk about the last day. While we can hear us back. A nice meal.
I think that sounds great. What I found out this last week. How we doing?
Okay.
But my crew can come in and do whatever. They can be out. The ones that come in, huh? Or if you move it 1 more week ahead, I will be. But I am going to be out of town on the 2nd. So, but I think that's a great idea. We'd love to be able to help. And I said, the group would be able to come with me. I just want to. So, yeah, how long do you want to be? Yeah. Yeah, well, I'd love to be here, but I'm not leaving something else. Pardon me? There's one more in there. Yeah. Do you have it? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay. And we're happy to do dinner well, we could record something or I could send something. Yeah, put it together and see if it was every other month or something like that. All right, how'd we do? What did we find out? Almost done? Count how many A's, how many B's, how many C's.
It is kind of difficult when you don't have a significant other, but I just.
Yeah.
This is different for my kids.
They kind of go back and forth. I have a couple of these surveys, but I like this one because it kind of gives a little bit of both perspective, you know. But thinking if you did have a significant other, or think about the significance in your life, whether your parents, would you prefer your mom did this or this? Would you prefer your best friend did this or this? Think about the special people in your life that are significant. What would speak most to you? Somebody coming over and babysitting for you, or somebody sending you a note that says, you know, you're just so great, and I, you know, love you, you know, so much, and you could keep those words with you, or you did this for me. So think about somebody who's important to you. Yeah. Did you figure yours out?
I'm a tie. Quality time in words of affirmation.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Okay, so how do you know the address? You know the most. What if you have two?
But I tend to, I like giving gifts and I like serving. And usually you tend to give out what you want. But
That's your love
That was
language.
gonna be mine.
I like giving gifts.
Words of affirmation, quality time, and acts of service.
So those are all three your love languages that you see, or that speak the most
I
to
knew
you.
mine wasn't gonna be touched.
All right, so how's everybody doing? Almost done? So when you look at this, can you see how this would play into your kids? Do you see how which child would like you to spend time with them? Which would like you to do something for them? Which one would like you just your words or a gift? And you know, the interesting thing is you got to learn more about this. A lot of us speak a language, but then we receive something different. So I may love to give gifts as my love language, but words of affirmation may be the thing that mean the most to me.
I think it depends on age too. The age of your children sometimes. Because like my daughter at that point where she liked the gifts. You know, but when they smaller, they want to, you know, I think it changes over time.
I think so, and I think all of us like all of those. We'd love to get a gift. We'd love to get a note that says you're special. We'd love to get a great hug from somebody. I mean, I think that it feeds all of us. But I think sometimes when you get to a point where there's maybe some conflict with your child, finding out what it is can be very important. And your last little sheet on here is using choices, as we study with love and logic, using choices to discover love language in your children. For your little ones, would you like for me to bake you a cake or take us for a walk in the park? Would you rather we wrestle, physical touch, or read a story, quality time? When I'm out of town, would you rather I bring you a present, gifts, or write a poem about a wonderful boy you are? Words of affirmation. Would you like to play our game, I like you because? Words of affirmation, or would you like me to fix your broken toy? Acts of service. So as you see that for younger ones, really you can, as you think about your children, think about, now they get older, going just about to junior high or just finishing grade school. For your birthday, would you have a rather new bike or a trip to Galveston? My youngest daughter his quality time, gave up her birthday parties about 3 or 4 years ago. She's about 13, and she just wants to go to the mall with me. So the money we would have spent inviting her friends over and getting cake and doing that, we go to the mall, just her and I together. We have lunch, and we've done this for the last 3 years. And that she would prefer that to a big birthday party. So it's interesting it's interesting, when you give them the opportunity to share that with you. Well, would you just rather spend, you and I go shopping and spend? Yeah. It's like, wow, I'd much rather do that than head over to Chuck E. Cheese with 400 other kids. So, but I think that's those things we can figure out. Would you rather I fix your computer this evening or we play basketball? If somebody wants your quality time or physical touch. When we see Grandma this weekend, would you prefer that I tell her what a great job you did at school, or buy you a surprise when we get there for doing so well? Watch you practice gymnastics, or buy you a new leotard? So you can really see. I think these are all excellent questions because they really, they're the experts. We're just learning from the experts. And if you've got a teenager, Saturday they got a new car. Saturday, would you like us to work on your car, quality time? Or would you rather I worked on it while you spent time with friends? Maybe it needs something that you could do together, but as a parent, you're generally going to have to do it yourself anyway. If they don't know you would be teaching. Do you prefer I buy you a jacket? Or the two of us spend some time together? Go out to lunch, grab a coffee, or ice cream. Since we're the only ones home tonight, would you rather we ate out, quality time, or I fix your favorite pizza, acts of service? So I think that's so does anybody have any ideas what your kids are?
Yes.
What's predominantly, you think?
Well, I have more than one child. My daughter likes quality time. And gifts. My son, he's more like, he always writing me notes and stuff. And then the next time we get my way, down there, I mean, like, I put it up. But I really, it's just been so weird. No, every day he comes home with paper. We all
have to get like a little shoebox or something.
He always writes something. He'll just go in his room and write something.
And it's amazing when you think about that as a child now, how amazing they're going to be as an adult writing notes. Think about his wife, how lucky she's going to be that he's going to, if he continues on this path, words of affirmation, sharing with somebody how important they are to them. Yeah. Any others? Did you tell me your child? You have 3.
I have 4.
4.
I have 2 that are touch, and then probably 1 gift and 1
Quality time. Mm-hmm. How about yours?
Oh, my daughter, she at the stage now. It's just one. What she won't give.
Yes, that's right.
But then she still want to sit on your lap.
I know what
Gifts and touch.
Kirsten
Just
is
like-
definitely physical touch.
What's yours?
Yes.
Yes.
Hold my hand and do the pancake on the couch, stack up like a mountain. And I think quality time for myself.
Quality time from one of my daughters. The other 2, I'm not so sure.
Well, mine,
All of them. You're busy then, you ladies.
quality time.
Affirmation. How about you ladies in the back?
Mine's quality time because my 10-year-old, she likes to shop. So just like how you and your daughter do the shopping for birthdays, this would be good.
Yes.
My son, he's 6, so he has to be under me, touch me, let's hold hands, and touch me. That's how he showed me that. Yeah.
Quality time.
I think for my oldest, it's quality time.
Yes.
Yeah, and for my youngest, it's quality time. I have a 9 and 7. They're all of these.
All of these. Yeah.
My 9-year-old is the quality time, and my 16-year-old is the active service.
Acts of service.
And quality time.
They do that.
We all sleep in separate beds, and then I wake up. Not all the time, but I'm just like,
Yeah.
They do that.
I got one that's every night.
Oh my goodness.
And if I push him all the way to the other side of the king size bed, he still comes right.
I think any kids, if they're in bed with you, they're up next to you and they're kicking you. And I know. How about yours? All of them. And it's, I think as you are able to take this information with you and really I think it's hard to decipher kind of upon hearing it the first time, because I think you'll see things that you didn't see before. I think I found that I saw things in my husband and my kids that I never saw before. And I have 2 teenage daughters also. And I really was like, now which one is she? Which one? And then I heard my daughter say something while I came to town. She was in college, and my friends I cannot believe they just couldn't even have time to meet me for coffee. And she was truly upset, and all kids are busy. And I thought, that's kind of interesting. You're pretty, well established and social, but that was her thing, was quality time, and that none of her friends took the time on that particular weekend to see her. She just really felt like nobody liked her anymore. So, I had to kind of talk her off the ledge. But I think that you will find that as you move forward, that your kids will say something to you, and you'll be like, the light bulb will go on, and you're like, oh my goodness. My love language is gifts. I love gifts, and I give gifts. And I think sometimes my kids will be like, I just want you to go out to lunch with me. And I'm like, okay, I found you this cute dress, but now I got to go, So I think I have to really be careful that I just don't do that, because I'm always thinking a moment out. Oh, maybe she needs this for a kitchen. Oh, wouldn't these shoes be cute? And I'm always thinking those things when I'm out, but that's not really what they always need from me. They expect it, but they don't need it. So I think as we move forward, and I think if you have a significant other or somebody in your life who drives you nuts, try to figure out what their love language is. Do they just need you to speak nice things to them? Do they just need you to make sure you shake their hand if it's somebody you're not going to hug? Because you're going to meet, you'll meet people who, like a boss or a relative, or even sometimes I think with my mom, when her and I get a little friction, I'm thinking, okay, what's her love language? Slow down, speak her love language, and, if she just wants me to spend time with her as opposed to just sending her a note or, that sort of thing, then I need to make sure I speak into that. Does anybody have any questions or anything?
So when you actually in like a situation like that, you really sit there and you be thinking about this?
I do. I do. I think that one of the things that's key in my life is I think relationships are the most important thing you have in your life. Other than anything you can own or anything you have, it's the people in your life that make your life worth living. So making sure, and especially my children, I wanted to make sure when they got older that I wanted to be their best buds, because I think they're all amazing. You created these children. They have a lot of personality like you a lot of the times, and sometimes that can be frustrating, but I really wanted to make sure my relationship with them stayed firm through junior high school, and now they're out of college and married, and I've got a grandbaby. I want to make sure that relationship, so figuring out what their love languages are, using my love and logic tactics on them when they were younger, and then figuring out what their love languages are. And next week we're going to talk about their spiritual gifts and how we nurture and work with what their spiritual gifts are, and have a little quiz that you can kind of think. But it's all ways that are so important. It's all ways to make sure that you've got that relationship, and that relationship with the other people in your life, because as you know, you've got some relationships in your life that aren't there anymore. And as you think about it, that can be painful. And it could have been something that you didn't do. But sometimes if I thought, well, if I'd known better, or if I'd acted such way, or if I said this, maybe that relationship would not have gone through the struggles or done certain things. So that's why I do. When I think of that, when I think about, once I go home, when I did this for the very first time, I went home and listed all of my friends, my family, and tried to figure out what their gifts were, so that it would be, if I felt like there was a conflict or I felt like they needed support, if you've got a good friend or a sister, and sometimes you don't think you speak their love language, you think you really want her to know you love her and you're really thinking about her, but you give her something or you say something and you just don't think it gets there, but you say, hey, I'll just come over and wash your car, and all of a sudden she's like, oh my goodness. It's figuring out for the people who are important to you what it is. So you'll have to let me know next week if you are wandering around and thinking, I wonder what that relationship is. Because that, I think, is the most, that's why I like it. And I'm weird in my own way, so that's why I like it.
Language change over time.
I do a lot of work at a homeless shelter with women. And when most of the time when the women we do this about once a year, and I work with those women and they took this quiz, almost 95% of them are physical touch. So, I think sometimes when you're going through struggles and hard times, your needs change. If you're away from family and friends, and if your support system, if you're in a homeless shelter, a lot of times your support system is gone for whatever reason. So I notice it changes over time. It also changes where we are at in our life. If we're in a strong relationship or if we're in a struggling relationship, if our kids, depending on their age, it changes over time. But knowing those things as you move forward, then you're like, okay.
Because I noticed mine change
Mm-hmm.
when I was looking at these things that I used to be interested in, no longer interested
Yeah.
in.
Well, and I think as we mature and grow in life, things that,
mine is due to disappointment, so that I don't have the same expectations anymore. So
that's tough. Yeah. We do. I mean, I think we were studying. I do a Bible study at the mission. We were studying this morning, and one of the fun things that we learned about this morning, we're studying Genesis. And as we talked about the ark, and as there was more despair in the world, it would get darker, and the storm came up. The ark sank. The ark rose closer to God. And so we thought about it, and that just kind of stuck with me all day. I haven't always thought of that as a visual for the Noah's Ark. But when things get really tough and the storms rage, and as we learn about, how the monsoons or whatever could go on the ark, but as the troubles grew here, the ark rose and we were closer to God. So just keeping our eyes open on that. So I think that's
real good.
it stuck with me all morning. I'm like, I never really thought about that before. So anyway, we're done just a little bit early. Please, if you want another piece of chicken, help yourself.
Don't
Thank
leave
you so
yet.
much. Don't what?
Don't leave yet. I know some of you all are trying.